Since I was a child, I've always loved a good story. Stories help us become the people we dreamed of being. Lies that told a deeper truth. I always thought I could play some small part in that grand tradition. And for my pains, I got this. My new narrative.
These violent delights have violent ends.
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Westworld Episode 9 and Episode 10 trailer video. There were some big reveals at the end of Episode 9, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Two big theories were basically confirmed. Let's start with the Episode 9 stuff. So there were two big reveals, two big theories that they effectively confirmed. One, that Arnold is really Bernard, and two, the Man in Black is William. Starting with Arnold first. We knew that Bernard was made sometime after Arnold's death, but the way the show hides things from the hosts, and there was the missing person in the picture, just made it feel like there was going to be some big twist. Then you see reveals like this when Dolores is walking through her memories into Arnold's office, and you see Arnold Weber, which is an anagram for Bernard Lowe, which is Bernard's full name. So the real confirmation comes when they flash back when he says, "Send me back to the beginning when I was first activated." So he wakes up on the table in a slightly younger version, like still old, but slightly younger version of Ford says, "It's so good to have you back." And then he gives them the picture from way back at the very beginning of the park. And sure enough, there is a person in it that looks exactly like Bernard, meaning that that is Arnold. But the Man in Black. So we had a couple different storylines this season. There were a lot of clues that everything we were seeing as it unfolded was not happening during the same time period. So you have Dolores seeing all these different visions from different time periods, but they occur in the same space. So then you learn about William and Logan's backstory, how they're part of the company that is thinking about buying out the park, rescuing them. In present day, the Man in Black confirmed that 30 years ago, he saved the park. Then later we see Tessa Thompson's character, Charlotte, interrupting him in the middle of what's been this complete tear across the landscape in a quest to find the center of the maze so that he can ask Arnold what this all means. So Man in Black, backstory confirmed. He is either the chairman, president, or the head of the Delos Corporation. So he's handing over his shares. That's almost like a secondary story at this point. That's like a completely separate thing. But the real big twist is that in the flashbacks, the young William sort of snaps when Dolores runs off, and Logan wakes up to find that he's massacred all of the hosts they're with. So he's sitting there saying that he's finally figured out how to play the game. So there you have your Man in Black persona right there. But there's still so many other storylines. You still have the Wyatt storyline. And now it looks like it really is going to confirm Dolores as Wyatt because of the way Teddy is starting to remember things as they happened, not as Ford gave him the memories. So this host here tells Teddy that he's not quite ready, maybe in the next lifetime, meaning that he just needs to have his memory jogged in the way that they all have. So like when Dolores goes into the church in her memories, she sees all the sentient hosts sort of like glitching out, remembering things, listening to Arnold. So Teddy is one of the other sentient hosts from that 35-year-ago period where everyone was massacred by this mysterious Wyatt person, but then he learns that he was part of it. They killed the general, and because Arnold helps Dolores remember that she killed him, like, "I can't help you, Dolores. Why is that?" "Because you're dead. I killed you." He is probably the general in that story. So that means that either a version of what's happening with Maeve's storyline happened in that 35-year-ago period, and the hosts gained sentience and revolted, or because of what Teddy says, like he says he was possessed by the devil and couldn't stop himself, like he's horrified at the thought of what he's done. So maybe this is a situation that Arnold engineered, like he was the architect of his own death. Because unless Dolores was like Maeve in that 35-year-ago period and she could force other hosts to do things that they weren't supposed to do, then it would have had to have been Arnold to start that kill order with the Dolores character. She's very key to this, so she's the Wyatt in the equation. Teddy was forced to help her. Later, after Ford created Bernard as a copy of Arnold and gave him some of Arnold's memories, like his core tragedy, like that son was probably Arnold's. Arnold probably had a real-life child that died, that informed his character. So Ford probably just took that and gave that to the Bernard android. So Ford reveals, like, the reason why he's not in any danger in this scene is because Bernard eventually helped develop a backdoor into the host's software, which he then himself used on Bernard. It was quite clever. You even taught me a few things, which I then later turned around and used on you. So even though he forced Bernard to kill himself at the end, the idea of Arnold is still embedded in all these sentient hosts, so his memory lives on, so it's not really going to stop that part of the equation. But then Ford has his new narrative, which seems like he's trying to re-engineer a version of what happened 35 years ago, because he's been excavating that town where everyone was massacred that's been buried in the sand. Like the Man in Black says, I've been to that town before. And the other thing too, like I love the look on Dolores' face when she calls out to William and sees the Man in Black. Like she's kind of lost in her memories the way she was when she went there with William earlier, so she starts to freak out because she remembers William, who she likes, but then she also remembers the Man in Black, who's been super vicious, so it just completely glitches her out. So Ford's new narrative is like the big thing for the finale. Like, how's this going to go down? Is he going to have everyone eventually kill Wyatt? Because that's what Teddy's been trying to do this whole time. He's been trying to kill Wyatt, thinking him the big villain, but he's had this big revelation now that he was complicit. He helped Wyatt murder all those people, but that's the fiction that Ford gave him. That's not the truth. So the truth is slowly coming out. There's probably going to be a big twist. But what I'm expecting is that the sentient hosts will continue to be a thing in season 2. They'll pick that up and run with it, because we've only just started to learn about Tessa Thompson's character. Like, she came relatively late in the game. We've just been learning about the Delos Corporation's interest in all this, the uplink that they were trying to steal information with. The whole thing's going to be really cool, even if you figured out the big twist behind some of these characters relatively early on, which a lot of us did. Like, a lot of us had a pretty good idea, even if it wasn't 100%. We were like 99% on Man in Black and the different time periods. So I feel like season 2 is going to be a lot bigger. It'll be a lot stronger because it took them a little while to find the show this season. But that's kind of the case with any show. Like, even Game of Thrones in its first season didn't get super high ratings compared to what it's doing now. So I feel like as long as the budget of Westworld doesn't spiral out of control the way the Game of Thrones budget is spiraling out of control, they'll get a solid 5 to 7 seasons out of it. But if you remember Deadwood was an amazing HBO series that was done by David Milch, but there was just so much friction between him and the executives at HBO, costs spiraled out of control, that they just canceled it after a couple seasons, even though it was super popular and everybody loved it. So got my fingers crossed. I'm going to choose to remain optimistic about the future of Westworld, but they did say that it takes a long time to make, so worst case scenario, season 2 won't debut till like early 2018, but I'm hoping they're able to get it out by this time next year. But I will continue to do Westworld bonus videos during the off season, so be sure to subscribe to get everything, and make sure you enable alerts. Just because YouTube is being weird right now, just make sure you click the little bell whenever you subscribe. So what's going to happen for my finale video, I'll just go ahead and do like a standard top 10 WTF style video like I would normally do for Game of Thrones or any of the other like big drama series. So that'll post next week, then I'll do some season 2 predictions. But then next, today, there was a Game of Thrones season 7 teaser, like bona fide footage that aired from season 7. They've been filming for a while, so there is a little bit of footage to show off. So I'll do a breakdown video for that. It really just featured the Stark children minus Bran. And then there's a big DC Comics 4-night crossover that's going to be starting later tonight. So there'll be 3 videos tonight. So there's a lot of stuff happening this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here for the most insane Game of Thrones theories you've ever heard, and you can click here for last night's Walking Dead episode. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.